I'm Ville Kyytsönen, I work for Uponor Group. I'm here to talk about BIM and digital construction and what it means for a manufacturing company. So I work with BIM at Uponor headquarters. I haven't been there for too long, it's just over a year. My background is actually in software, and I haven't done too much construction even though I own an old house. So I think sort of our vision on how to BIMify Uponor is actually, okay, how do we serve you guys as designers, contractors, engineers, wholesalers in your needs, because we see that the industry is changing and companies are changing to do more and more BIM and different kind of digital things. I think BIM is sort of overused word anyhow. But okay, that only means that we as a company need to change, and let's see how that goes. It's a bit challenging for me to present after Norbert and Menno after their great presentations. Norbert presented anything from thermodynamics to the birth of civilization, and then that sort of brought to my mind that there's three really important things that are happening, and one was already mentioned, which is the the World Hockey Championships. The other one is the Eurovision Song Contest, where I wish you all for luck. Unfortunately, Finland also there made into the finals, because we have the joke that Finland 0 points, like we traditionally have always done. Except with Lordi, if somebody remembers Lordi. And, okay, excellent. That's a good damage for Finnish reputation. Yeah. So that's the third thing, of course, is this event here. Okay. Just to my amusement, I would just like to check how many of you have previous sort of experience with BIM. Have you been using BIM in some project, or you know how to use the software? Have you been investing, making decisions to use BIM software? So if you have, then raise your hand. All right, excellent. I'm really happy about the decision now. Yeah. Sorry, I hear myself, so it's a. Okay, I'll get back to the comment. So just the point being there that it's good that I'm not going to talk about what is BIM, because you probably know better than I do what is BIM. So we'll go into more practical side. Okay, good. Okay. So basically in the agenda I have two messages. The first one is that BIM and digital construction are things that are here to stay. They are not going away. We don't basically have alternatives on how to work with them. The other one is that we have a sort of a strategy now with Uponor on how to go forward, and I'll want to share that strategy with you, and then sort of this is something that we want to keep improving. So when you have feedback, needs, just come to Uponor guys, and we'll work those out and see, okay, how can we make it better. So basically two things you need to remember from this presentation, and they were on the previous slide. You saw this already before, and this is just to tell why we think BIM is important. It's not important because BIM is nice or BIM is digital and 3D is nicer than 2D, but I think the whole point is that when we do BIM in a good way, we actually unlock a lot of other things in construction, which we can then together improve. And prefabrication is of course one of those big things. Because if we move from building and construction and sketching and all those kind of manual things on site to more of an assembly type of world, where we actually design the buildings, we design the components we want to use, then we do those somewhere in controlled environment with good quality, and we test them, and then we bring them to site and start installing. Of course that will improve the quality and the performance of construction that we have been discussing before. So that's one, but of course we together have to improve and start implementing BIM in a better way to do that. Other things which are sort of relevant maybe, at least from Uponor point of view, might be IoT, to be able to get data from the devices, from the goods, back to us, but also back to you, so that we can act on information that we get from the buildings, making buildings smarter. And then, for example, the use of drones, which is sort of my personal favorite. I like drones, I have a few. But how can we improve the information we have about a construction site or the building we're building or renovating by checking, scanning, doing 3D models of that before we start to do any other kind of design or construction activities? It happened? Okay. Okay. I think the main thing about BIM and why it's here to stay is that it's not something that only happens in textbooks, or it's not something that only happens in the US, in the Wonder World with Trump. I think the big thing is that we can already see that this is a global thing and it's happening all the time, and also it's a good thing for improving the productivity, but also it's like we have been discussing also before here, it's good because it makes the industry seem more interesting for young people. So in Finland, lately, just this week and the previous week, we have had a lot of discussion in the newspapers about how young people don't want to study technology anymore. You know, the universities and engineering schools are losing students, and people go study something else, or then they do some, I don't actually know what they do. But engineering has been hugely popular in Finland. People have been studying mathematics and chemistry and physics. And now it's just, you know, nothing happening there. And I think to get talented people into construction, it's good that we are able to show things like HoloLens and artificial reality and these kind of things, because then young people sort of start to consider that maybe that's an industry that I want to work for. So maybe I want to do software, but maybe I could go into construction to do software, because that seems like a actual thing where you build things. It's a tangible thing. So I think this is one of the major good reasons why this is a good thing for the industry, and we can basically all support it as well, because when we go out there and we start talking with young guys, then we can mention that, hey, there's new technologies happening there. So we are no longer in the Middle Ages doing construction as we have been doing for the past 100 years. But anyhow, it's a global shift. There's big software companies out there. There's a lot of things happening, and it's changing all the time. And in a way, if we implement BIM today together, maybe in few years we need to do it again. We already see this, for example, in the UK, where they have a lot of those BIM mandates. That a good BIM solution that they had a few years ago, it's no longer good. It's you were excellent here, then you continued to do that like you did, but the requirements have been getting stricter and stricter. So now you're just, passing at that point. So we need to be evolving together all the time. So basically what I see here is that BIM has moved past the chasm. It's one of those technologies that actually the visionaries took into use, and now it's being used by the majorities, and it didn't drop here and wander off, somewhere into the drains. But actually, it's an important thing, and it will keep growing and changing in the future as well. So that's the first message of the whole presentation. It's here to change, and we as a manufacturer need to be reacting to that one, because you guys are actually starting to use these technologies more and more every day. So, how do we at Uponor want to approach this? This is basically sort of thing that we have now done during the last few years by talking to designers and contractors, different associations, and trying to get the information that, what is the best thing? How should we react? And it's quite clear now that software is in a way in a leading position. It's on the driver's seat. Because when you do BIM, you want to change your processes, you want to change the tools. That's the way to take it forward, right? I see a lot of nodding. That's good. So when we want to think that, how can we improve the situation? That means that we have to help the software companies and you as the users to make better software. And we, for example, now have some plans on creating the best underfloor heating tool for BIM in the world, which is ambitious, but of course there aren't too many tools out there at the moment for that use case. So when we do one, it's almost guaranteed to be the best one. But we still need to make it quite good. But the key there is that we are thinking that we help designers, we help the contractors by giving good tools that you can do a faster job, a better job, and maybe win more work. But it sort of also ties back to our products, so that we know that when you use the tool, then it works with Uponor stuff. So of course, when we do that kind of a tool, we also have to offer quality content into that one. And by content, we mean digital versions of our products, right? Libraries, Revit families, all these kind of things. And then we package this all up and serve it as add-ons to different software packages. And that's the practical way we go forward. Connected to this one, we also have to recognize that it's not only about designers, but it's also all the other trades, like technical salespeople, you know, people on site, somebody making estimates, doing calculations, and we need to serve those guys as well. So once we have the digital products, we can now also create other kind of services, online services that people can easily access and get information about how to do something, cooling system, heating system, prefabricated system for a project. So it's basically, the question is only about better customer service and accessibility of information. And then, of course, we might also see here a potential to do different kind of other services. But I think that the key here is the empty box, because as said before, BIM and digital construction is changing all the time, and when it's changing, we also have to be adapting and then see, okay, what's the next thing? So do we need to have HoloLenses, or do we need to have more drones? So we keep sort of filling that empty box over and over again and see, okay, what's needed, what works, what doesn't work. So a lot of trial and error there. I think as a company, Uponor has been really good before, and hopefully also in the future, to talk to installers, and so to talk to people on how and why they should use our stuff when they are at site and installing pipe and making connections. And that changes now a little, because even though a lot of thought and product development has gone into this one, and we have a really dedicated and loyal customer base also there. In the US, I saw this guy who had a tattoo of Uponor logo all across his back from one shoulder to another. And you know, for me it would be very small, but for him, he has broad shoulders, it was really big. But he was really liking Uponor, so he took the tattoo. Would like to meet his wife, by the way. But the point there is that we have been able to do well here. But now when the construction goes more and more digital, we actually start to talk more to engineers. Do we have engineers in the audience? Yes, many engineers, excellent. How about architects? Do we have architects? Good, no architects. So we can tell a lot of architect jokes. I actually knew that there are no architects, because architects always come to an event with these big, thick glasses and a dark suit, and so there are no architects there. How about contractors? Contractors, general contractors, men, no? Okay, we cannot tell jokes about those guys. They sit in the front row. Okay. But yeah, but anyhow, we need to change. So instead of talking to these guys in the future, we talk to this audience. And that's also like we talk to you guys in a different way at that point. Good. So this should enable us to do different things. One is prefabrication. In the next presentation, we'll actually hear a little, maybe like one slide, I guess, Paul, about prefabrication and what that enables, and see some examples. But it's basically a way of changing construction, like discussed before. Then the other thing is that we have a lot of products, and a lot of construction is actually done with products which are not standard. They are not something that you go to the warehouse and buy and you get it, but they're actually products that need to be configured or customized. It's a bit like buying a car. So you don't buy the Skoda, you don't buy a Skoda, you buy an Octavia with a 1.4 TSI with the DSG with some three-letter acronym and something like that. But anyhow, you basically configure and make it fit to your purposes. And this is one thing that we are also looking with BIM, because there's a lot of need for those kind of services as well. And then to be able to do this online. So instead of installing something on your computer or going through a lot of brochures and these kind of things, I think it's more and more something that you access a website and you do the work there and you get what you want out from there. I saw a few examples about that one later on. So overall, I think what construction is doing at the moment is that we are going from parts and the single components where we compete with price to more and more to talk about solutions and systems which actually do something, and even more to the Lego world where we actually take bigger chunks of the project, we assemble them off-site and then stack them together, and that's suddenly construction is very different. And this is something that sort of the the demand for BIM increases, of course, when you move to this direction, because if something is wrong here, it's sort of a bigger problem than if something is wrong here when you can just replace the pipe. Here you have to basically fix the whole element to make it work. So design is a lot more, let's say, accurate here, but also the work is a lot tougher to do it like that. Some of this work we have already done. So here's just a quick example of a Revit family, how you can use it. So when you use a manufacturer's content to do your design, you can actually trust that the product you see on the screen actually works exactly like the product that you're going to use in the real life. So it knows how the pipe is going to bend, it knows how it's going to connect into that other pipe, it knows how it connects into this riser. By the way, did you know that there's over 4 kilometers of Uponor MLC pipe in this building as risers? It's quite a lot. I looked it up. And then how it connects into these other products. So basically, when you use the manufacturer's content instead of the generic stuff you get with the software, you can trust that this is something that you can build and that the installer on the site can actually install and even find when he needs some replacement parts, or in the facility management phase, if something breaks, you can actually find the information what you have installed and what the building has inside the wall in a really accurate manner. And then also, if you want it, for example, extend, you know already that, okay, there's that kind of a part, so you can design and plan the whole maintenance routine, all those different actions, before you go, for example, into a hotel room and explode the whole wall, because you know what you're going to expect to find in there. So I think this is one of the keys that also unlock benefits in the facility management phase, in repairs, maintenance, all these kind of things. So it's more important than we, I think, see at the moment. More use cases. Then this is the on-demand part. So we have different kind of products. For example, it could be a prefabricated cabinet, but it also could be something from infrastructure side. So for example, a rainwater tank. And basically these tanks, you can have, 1 million different ones, different lengths, different diameters, and when you try to find the right one for your product, for your project, you need to do quite a lot of work. You need to find out what's available. I think the approach that we get from the market is that you could do it yourself. So we can offer this kind of configurators where you can go on to online and then change the properties. You can change the diameter, you can change the length, to change the volume. You can give it different kind of options on what type of gizmos, I guess that's the technical term, you want to put in there. And then once you have configured it to your liking, then you can basically download the model to your project, place it there, see if it works, and then if you really like it, you can even ask that I want to buy this one, and then the request would digitally go to the wholesaler or Uponor or somebody else. And this just saves a lot of time from people when you need the information, and you can actually take a lot more detail into your project in a lot earlier stage than you could before. Good. Then about the empty box, again, my favorite thing. So we need to be testing these technologies as well. Lately, we have been playing around little with drones. So, for example, on this is from one site in Espoo in Finland, where they're building a shopping mall, actually a movable shopping mall. So they build it there for 3 years, and then they move it somewhere else because they're building the actual shopping mall next to the movable shopping mall. But there we did some scanning just about the site, what fits, what doesn't fit, planning logistics, planning safety, these kind of things. And it's interesting that that kind of a drone is about 700 euros at the moment. And you can, with this software you use to do that kind of photogrammetry, it's not expensive at all. So basically these are technologies that are available to almost anybody who's professionally working here. So of course, if we don't test this out and we don't understand them, then it's more difficult for Uponor to serve you guys in your projects. We did another project as well. This is a racetrack in Finland. It's going to be hosting a MotoGP race in 2019. It's a huge site. It's 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and we flew 3 drones at the time. And I think we have now better data about the site in this current condition than the contractor there. So it's quite interesting what we can do with this. Here the value proposition is that there's a, actually you cannot see it too well, but there's a training circuit here, which the military and truck drivers and everybody else can go to and practice different kind of situations. And you need to be able to get it wet and or sandy or snowy almost at any time. So of course a lot of infrastructure equipment will go there. So if we can prove through these models that actually we know how to do it and we understand the local environment, then it's more likely for us to be creating a working solution rather than something that we just think might work. So in a way, this is important, and of course we share the data with everybody else in the project as well. I'm starting to conclude here, but to me, BIM is not something that we do just models for the sake of doing models. The point of doing the models and adding the data and the information there is actually to do something intelligent with it. And the intelligence is actually to run those processes that we need for design and for construction. So we might be doing an energy simulation, we might be doing a structural analysis, noise, scheduling, estimation, safety, something like that. And those are the use cases for the 3D models and the data. And then we might produce different kind of documents like paper drawings or something to your iPad or something like that, or to your VR glasses, and give it to you. And that's the use case. It's not to do 3D models of pipe just because somebody somewhere might need to have a 3D model of a pipe. Pipe is, by the way, one of the most boring things I've seen in a 3D model because it's always similar. It has holes in both ends. It doesn't get too exciting there. Okay, but yeah, so that's one. And how we build this up is that we want to use BIM as a channel to offer better product information. So first thing is that we take all the information we have about the product. It might be technical stuff, it might be marketing stuff, and we push it into these BIM objects. So you might expect to have information about pressure loss, flow rate, something like this, or you might expect to find information that how many pieces you have in one bag of some product. It should all be visible in those libraries. And then we provide the tools and the skills basically to use the content in the future in a construction project to make it really work. So a lot of this stuff is actually already available from Uponor pages. So you can find this from uponor.com or, for example, from Magic Cloud. We are now extending those, so we are starting to support basic Revit and some other tools as well in the future. And we have a roadmap on how to extend, so how to build new digital products and new content there. And we are now rolling it up then into the market during 2018. And if you have any needs or ideas on what you need, what you want to have there, which softwares, then we are all ears and we try to put those into the roadmap as well. So I think we are not going to do this alone. So for the next 100 years, I think we're also building a new type of collaboration from a manufacturer to you guys. Thank you.